Hello again, everyone. This is Bionic Slime, your online voice for reviews of your choice, and welcome to another special BS list. Well, the year 2010 has come and gone. We are now in the year of 2011, and it's time to reflect. Reflect on the movies that we saw in the past year, the ones we loved, the ones we liked, and the ones we thought were steaming, festering piles of wretched, rancid horseshit. This is my top 12 worst movies of 2010. Why top 12? I like to go 2 steps higher than normal, and 12 is my lucky number. Now, a couple things I want to get out of the way. I would have liked to use trailers for this, but unfortunately I've been slapped with several copyright leases before, so I don't really want to get in any further trouble. So I'm sorry, but I'm going to be using movie posters instead of trailers. Please understand that these are my personal opinions of what I are the worst movies of 2010. You can agree, you can disagree. Either way, it's my list. I mean, I remember back in 2009, there was a journalist from a famous newspaper that actually said 2009, in his opinion, was the worst year for movies, and that most of the movies in 2009 were some of the worst pieces of cinematic garbage. Not surprisingly, some of the movies he blasted were on my favorites list. And I'm not going to be so petty as to mention the newspaper's name. Blow it out your ass, Chicago Tribune. Oh, I'm sorry. Where did that come from? The reason I bring this up is because I honestly think 2010 has been one of the worst years for movies because there were so many disappointing films. So, let's get started with this horrendous shitfest.
You suck!
You saw diddly yuck, Flanders!
You suck, you jackass!
You suck!
Number 12, Alice in Wonderland. Now, let me be clear by saying that I am a huge freaking Tim Burton fan. He is my idol for movie directors. But lately with his past works, he's been slipping. I love Johnny Depp and I love Tim Burton. They always do such good stuff together. But here, they just really drop the ball. Alice in Wonderland is loaded with great visuals, but everything else is lacking in terms of life, spark, soul, and quality writing. Half the times, I don't know what the hell these actors were talking about because they were either speaking nonsensical gibberish or things that were in reference to things that you should know but don't because not everyone knows this stuff inside and out. So you're like, what the hell are they talking about? What was up with all the people who had abnormally sized body parts surrounding the Queen of Hearts? I mean, they didn't bother explaining that, but they insert into the movie like you're supposed to know what they're talking about. It just seems weird and stupid, and as much as I love Johnny Depp, his character really didn't do much, except for that really retarded dance at the end, which made even less sense than half the nonsensical gibberish he and every other character in this movie said. The movie wasn't really terrible, but it was certainly disappointing. Number 11. Clash of the Titans. Again, this movie wasn't terrible, but it was a huge disappointment. The trailer pumps you up, thinking it's going to be like the best film ever. And instead, it just ended up being pretty blasé. I mean, even for an action movie, the action scenes don't really have any kind of spark or, ingenuity. I mean, the creatures all look great, but half the time they end up used so poorly, and the special effects make certain ones look even more hollow. And that's all the best way to describe this movie is hollow. I mean, Sam Worthington is the lead. Are you kidding me? This guy doesn't have a solid pulse and a bone in his body. And on top of that, all the cool gods that we saw were pretty much reduced to just Hades and Zeus, which were expected, but you got all these guys around. You want to see them do something other than just these two. And it's just like, this movie had such potential with cool monsters, a great setup for battles and action sequences, but in the end, it was all hollow, empty, and just dead inside, much like the acting talents of Sam Worthington. Number 10, Despicable Me. Yes, don't scream what at the computer screen. I actually did not like this movie. In fact, I thought it was pretty friggin' disappointing. Everyone gloated and glorified this movie, saying it was so fantastic for both children and adults. I saw it, and I didn't think it was good for either one, unless your IQ or age is that of 3. I really didn't think there was anything new, different, or impressive in this movie. There were a couple good jokes, but everything was just pretty much simple stuff. I mean, this is common kiddie cartoon stuff. Even the villain. I don't even call them villains. I mean, they were just like clowns. I mean, how the hell is Steve Carell's character that much of a villain? He was just like a guy who liked to shoot people with guns or something. It didn't seem like this was about villains at all. Megamind seemed more like that than this. And people glorified this and ignored Megamind. But this was just so disappointing. There's nothing new here. All the jokes are lame and completely predictably stupid. There is no real heart here that I haven't seen done better 1,000 times in past films. I don't know why people thought this movie was great. I thought it was just blasé, boring, uninteresting, uninspiring, and unfunny. Number 9, Splice. I made it no mystery in my Splice review that I was completely put off and annoyed by the ridiculous and absurd, pointless sex scene between Adrian Brody and the creature Dren. Many people have argued with me about this, but let me ask you this. If you were a scientist who worked with your wife or husband to be, and you used some of your own DNA to put into a creature that you started to bred and raise as your own, like your own child, tell me, why the hell would you think it would be okay to stick your wang in something that was pretty much akin to your child? That doesn't make any sense. That's the equivalent of Dr. Victor Frankenstein boning Frankenstein. It's gross, it's creepy, and it's just not realistic. I don't care how human-like she looks. It's just ludicrous to even conceive the notion of an audience actually accepting the idea of a person boning this creature. It's stupid, it's silly, it's nonsensical, and it's just freaking weird. On top of that, the characters' personalities go completely south by the end of the movie, not to mention the ridiculous and predictable horror cliche traps it trips over towards the end. Number 8. The Book of Eli. Another movie that started out so cool and then ultimately kicked you in the nuts and ran away laughing. Book of Eli had a very cool aspect by keeping the whole idea of the book mysterious. You didn't know what it was, you didn't know what was going to happen with it, and we learned that Denzel Washington is a total badass even in a post-apocalyptic world. But it all ultimately kind of gets a little bit of a letdown when you find out that the book is the frickin' Bible. That's right, all the cool badass gore scenes and the fight scenes are all for a giant Bible thumper movie. And that's what really disappointed me about this movie, because it had the potential to be something much more cool and original, but instead we're honestly led to believe that people who are starving in the streets and trying to cut your throat while you sleep can be saved just because one guy is carrying a book around the post-apocalyptic nuclear wasted world. I'm sorry, I'm not buying that, and I'm not putting any more faith in a movie that makes you think it's something cool only to say, hey, it's Jesus. That's cool, right? No, it's not. Number 7, Shutter Island. This movie really had me going, and I was really, really into it. I almost had a successful movie outing with this film. I almost did, because it had great acting, great directing, great writing, great drama, and everything was building up to a completely perfect and wonderful film. And then at the last 10 minutes, the last 10 frickin' minutes, this movie comes and rips out your brain, and you just sit there and cry and ask, why? Why did you do this? An intelligent, witty, and creative film was ultimately flushed down the toilet in favor for a cheap, predictable, and crappy ending that basically took everything away and smashed it all to pieces. I don't care if this is how the original book's ending is. This is a shit ending that just basically turned the movie to just that. Shit. I normally wouldn't put a movie on here just for the ending alone, because this ending took everything away that was good about the movie before and just hollowed it out to the point where it's just like glass. I had to put it on here because that ending just destroyed everything. It took everything that was good and ruined it, and it changes everything because of that ending. Number 6, Machete, or Machete, whatever stupid ass name they inserted to make it sound cool. You know, I loved Grindhouse. I loved the trailers. I loved both movies. that they featured in it, and I don't know why it didn't do that well. And I really was happy to hear that Machete was actually being made into a full-blown film. Then I see it, and then I'm like, you know what? It should have just stuck as a fan trailer. This movie took itself way too freaking seriously based on a trailer that didn't take itself seriously at all. And that was the biggest problem with this movie. It was supposed to be silly, it's supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be mindless gore. Instead, it just tried to take itself way too seriously. It tried to make him sound like he was some sort of boogeyman epic legend by calling him Machete. Apparently that makes him sound cooler for some stupid ass reason. And we're supposed to believe that you're supposed to take this seriously. I'm like, you can't. You got Cheech Marin as a freaking priest who shoots people. And you got a guy riding on a motorcycle with a Gatling gun, and Lindsay Lohan as a nun with guns. This all sounds awesome, but by taking it way too seriously, it made the movie just lame. Number 5, Skyline. The movie really lacked everything that would be considered a viable substance. The actors and characters were completely hollow and dead. There was no personality, no effort, no depth, no point other than to show how futile it is for humans to fight against these aliens. And the aliens were cool for a time, but the things they did and just the way they handled things, it just ended up being really boring and just lame. This was like a big budgeted movie you see on the Sci-Fi Channel. But it still has all of the crappy acting, the lame storyline, and the lackluster performances that you expect from a shitty-ass sci-fi movie. Number 4, The Crazies. I haven't seen the original George Romero film, but I thought this would be a great idea until you found out that the movie barely even has any what you could call characters because it starts immediately. I mean, we're not even 5 minutes into the film, the crazy stuff already happens. And by the time it goes full blown, guess what? The crazies are gone because now they're fighting the military. That's right, the crazies. How scary it is to be chased by the military and gas masks and yeah, blah, blah, blah. We've heard this crap before. They should call this movie the Army or the military because that's all it really was. They pretty much got rid of all of the crazies. And aside from a few cool scenes, this movie was pretty much just outrunning the military. It wasn't like a zombie movie. It wasn't like a scary movie. It wasn't even like anything. It was just the military. I'm like, come on. You just took the best part about the movie. You took its title sake out of the picture. How the hell can you do that? Number 3, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief. And from what I understand, they tried to cram at least 2 or 3 books worth into this one picture. And, you know, it could have worked if you actually had the actors act like, you know, acting, because I could tell you, no one acted for crap in here. And it's a true shame because it has a really unique concept. I love the special effects, and you had such a great cast. I mean, you have Steve Coogan, Rosario Dawson, Pierce Bronson, Uma Thurman, and it's like, how could you go wrong with this? And I'll tell you how. By having terribly, poorly written characters with no drama or actual any kind of development. You wasted it on cute teens, and any actually interesting story elements are wasted by showing them for only 5 seconds and then ignoring them for more teen crap. This movie was so beyond stupid. Number 2, Jonah Hex. I actually put it at number 2 mainly because of Josh Brolin. The movie sucks, the story sucks, the script sucks, the acting sucks, but not Josh Brolin. He was the one thing that kept us from being number 1 on my list because, let's face it, Josh Brolin kicks frickin' ass. He's an awesome actor, and he tried his best, and he looked his best for this film, but it just didn't help this worthless piece of garbage they actually called a script. It was all over the place. It wasted any good, talented actors by giving them shit performances, except for Brolin. They inserted Megan Fox in there. What the hell was she doing there? It didn't make any sense. It wasn't compelling, wasn't cool, wasn't dramatic. It wasn't anything other than just mindless filth. It was just mindless. That's all the best way to describe it. It wasn't good mindless. It was horrendous mindless. Number 1 worst movie of 2010 is M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender. This movie ruins every conceivable aspect of every angle of every aspect of the show it was based on. There's no good character development. The dialogue is weak and pathetic. They butcher the characters' names, and the special effects and fight sequences are not even remotely close to compensating that the mental and psychological anguish that it'll put you through by watching this movie. I pray to God you never waste your time or money or eyesight on this atrocious assault on movies everywhere. This movie will kick your nuts in, set them on fire, and watch you scream and bleed as you burn to death. That's what this movie makes you feel like. It's what it made me feel like, and that is why I call it the worst movie of 2010. Well, that's all for now. This has been Bionic Slime for my BS list. Thank you all for listening, and goodbye for now.